welcome to the Heart of Giving. Today we have a really special program, and it's kind of timely. And I'm so glad that we're presenting it to you now so that you get just a little peek of what happens during the week of the Grand Prix. You know, the Grand Prix has been in our city for over 40 years, and there have been people from the city that have been making it more successful because of their involvement, their work, and I'm so pleased today that we have Rick DeRee. Rick DeRee is president of the foundation of the Grand Prix, and that's a nonprofit. So this fits right into our program. I've got my Grand Prix scarf on. Rick's got his Grand Prix jacket on. So it's a timely time to talk about this. And this is Rick DeRee, and he's president and has been president for a long time of the Long Beach Grand Prix Foundation. So Rick, welcome. I'm so glad you're here today. This is great. Absolutely. How long have you been involved with the Grand Prix?
With the race itself?
Yeah.
43 years.
Oh, well, that's how long it's been in operation.
That's how long it's been around, yes.
Since 43 years?
Yes.
What did you do at the very beginning?
Believe it or not, at that time I was a member of the Long Beach JCs, and we were charged
And you were working at your livelihood.
Well, yes.
Which was?
My career was with the fire department here in Long Beach.
I wanted to bring that out.
And
yes.
that was one aspect of working the race. But the volunteer part of it came by working with the JCs, and we sold programs during the race. And there was a group of us that had motorcycles at the time, and we would go around to the different program booths and pick up the receipts and take them back to a bank.
In your motorcycle?
In our motorcycles, and running down Ocean Boulevard while the race was going on. So,
oh my!
Things have changed dramatically.
Oh, I would say so. I would say so. Well, the Grand Prix has been. I can remember actually when it started, which I couldn't have told you the date, but you know, the whole downtown was changed. It is still, but I mean, you know, the people that lived along there said, "What are you doing?" and couldn't believe that these race cars were going to go along Ocean Boulevard,
Right.
which they don't anymore, but
Right.
they almost the same, in the same location.
It's the track itself has changed dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
The way it was run initially was right down Ocean Boulevard
know.
and then dropping down at Linden and
Mm-hmm.
coming back up at Pine Avenue, and which was kind of exciting because the cars back then actually got airborne as they would make those corners. And
Oh.
They would literally fly across
But didn't
the
they come
corner.
back Alamedas?
No, they went down, came around, and then back up Pine Avenue, and then down Ocean Boulevard eastbound, and then dropped down. They called it the Linden Drop, because when they made the turn,
That's what I
right-hand
thought.
turn
Linden
down,
is in there, too.
Linden, yeah.
Okay.
And the car would come about 18 to 24 inches up off the ground. It was interesting to watch.
Well, it has been. It is really a hallmark of the city, though.
Absolutely.
I mean, yearly, and it's actually sought after by the racers because they seem to like to be in Southern California at a place that's so accommodating. So, but that has gone on, and of course, it was started by Chris Pook, and who's still around and takes great pride in what's going on.
Of course.
Jim Mahalian is just doing a great job.
Yeah.
So, but let's go back to what you do now. There is a foundation now,
Right.
and that was started when?
That was started in 1991.
Okay.
Historically, if you think back to the beginning parts of the race itself, there was an organization back in the mid to late 70s that was begun. It was called Grand Prix Charities, and which evolved into a company called Beach Charities. And they ran events in support of the Grand Prix to raise money for local charities, for the people that came into town to watch the race. Very successful initially, and then gradually they began to kind of fade away. And so there was a void left by their leaving. And somewhere around 1990, Chris Pook got some people together and started beginning the initial conversations about some other type of organization that could provide ancillary events to the race itself while raising money for the local charities and the Grand
And
Prix
mainly
Foundation.
for the tourists?
Not just for the tourists, but for the residents of the city
Okay.
as well. But certainly the tourists were a big component of it. If you're coming into town for the race, and you're coming in, let's say, Tuesday or Wednesday of race week, what are you going to do with your time in the evening? Well, we'll provide something for you to do. And oh, by the way, we'll raise a few dollars for our local charities. And it's a win-win situation.
And so what did you do about it?
Well, the first thing out is that they tried to put together when they founded the foundation was a golf tournament. And that was the very first foundation event. Very successful. And then the following year, they followed it up with the black tie event, which was the Grand Prix Charity Ball, which was an event that we had for over 20 years.
It was very elegant.
Very elegant.
Race car drivers
Race
were there.
drivers and teams, our sponsors, Toyota and some of the other large sponsors would attend. Very well attended, made a lot of money on the
I
ball
know.
because they had a tremendously attractive live auction.
And the biggest auction item.
And the biggest auction item each year was the opportunity to drive in the following year's pro celebrity race. So the average citizen, if they had the funding available,
If they had the money, yes.
exactly, would be able to bid on the opportunity to physically
Well,
drive.
I didn't go to all of them, but the ones that I did go to, that was the highlight of the evening, and there were always 2 or 3 people in the room that only came for that reason.
That's exactly right.
And the bidding was almost a bidding war in how much they would pay, and I thought, you got to be kidding.
Yeah, it started out the very first time we sold it. I think we got somewhere right around $30,000 for
Oh
it,
my!
which was extraordinary. We thought
Yeah.
that we had died and gone to heaven. And the
I
following,
think that was about the times that I was going.
and that was the lowest it ever went for.
No.
The following year, it went for over $50,000. The year after that, we had 2 bidders that were bidding in competition with each other, and they got the bid up to $105,000. Toyota, in their generosity, allowed us to add 1 more car to the race, so we sold 2 spots and walked away with $210,000 for 1 auction item. It was pretty much the highlight of our career.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Where else could you have
Exactly.
find anything like that?
Exactly.
Well, that's wonderful. And then what do you do with all this money?
Well, that's the beauty of the organization. We pride ourselves in trying to help the local, smaller charities. Over the years, we've been involved with the children's hospitals, both in Orange County, Chalk, and Miller's in Long Beach. But with those 2 exceptions, every one of our charities are local, pretty much homegrown charities around the city of Long Beach. And they're the ones who really need the funding. And so we can spread some of the money that we make around to those little charities. They're tremendously appreciative of getting
Yes.
whatever we can afford, And,
So you don't just raise money for doing something at the race, you do something for the community.
Absolutely. We pride ourselves in saying that 90 cents on every dollar that we raise goes directly back into the charities who receive our funding. And it has been that way since the beginning, and it's still that way today. So.
Do you do other things? Don't they have a golf thing?
We do the golf tournaments. We do the charity ball has been taken off the table the last couple of years. We've been doing a Monte Carlo or a casino night format, which has been in the past very, very successful.
Doesn't raise as much money, though.
Doesn't raise as much money. We brought it back last year because, quite frankly, the charity ball, the black tie event, was becoming a little stale. People had been going to it for 20-some years. It was the same basic format over and over again. We needed to shake it up a little bit. And so we brought back the Monte Carlo night, had a huge turnout, had a great success with the event. The funds aren't there. The same dollars aren't raised.
But the enthusiasm.
The enthusiasm is tremendous. It really is. And so we're
Do
going
you
to do
still
that
do
again
do
next
you
year.
still do the race car?
We did this year because first of all, we didn't think the pro celebrity race was going to occur. We had been told that Toyota had been in contact with Long Beach and said that this was going to be the last year that they would have the race. So we weren't sure we'd be able to auction it off. At the last minute we were, and we held a closed auction for only those bidders that you mentioned before who had previously bid on that particular item. We knew we had kind of a captive audience of people who liked to do it and who liked to spend money. And so we held a private auction for those individuals, and we were able to sell it for $105,000. So with that, along with the Monte Carlo night proceeds this year, we'll have raised some substantial, monies at the end of the season.
But you can't continue it because there won't be a celebrity.
There will not be a pro celebrity race after this year, so that one big ticket item will be off the table, right? So we're looking desperately to find something to fill that gap because that's our meal ticket.
You know, you've been around the Grand Prix for so long, and it's become a tradition in the city, and people do understand it. At the very beginning, it was like, why are we doing this? You know, and it's noisy, and this isn't part of our city type of thing. What has it done for the city?
Well, I mean, just from a purely financial standpoint, I think the number that they usually kick around is that the race brings approximately $40 million in economic benefit to the city of Long Beach just over that weekend. I mean, that's a tremendous boost for the community.
Absolutely.
As somebody who worked for the city, I know how important that kind of revenue stream is, you know, for city services. And we're a full-service city. We have to be able to provide for those services in some way. And that's a huge component of it.
Part of that revenue, however, goes to help pay off, you know, the time of police, time of fire.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yes.
yeah. What does the fire people? What do they do?
The firefighters? Well, you know, the fire department literally has to staff a full complement of apparatus and firefighters inside the racetrack because you have city assets inside the course. The convention center and the parking structures and things like that that sit inside the race course perimeter have to be protected by us. In addition, you have, you know, 90 to 100,000 people a day in those grandstands who may or may not need medical assistance or a variety of other things. And so they put a full complement of firefighters and equipment inside the racetrack, and the race pays that. They pay the city directly back for their services.
So all of the services of the city kind of have to work together, not just fire and police. It has to be the grounds people, the development people,
Everybody.
Everybody.
If you look at, the Grand Prix has these planning meetings preceding the race, number of them. And if you look around the table, you'll see representatives there from the fire department, police department, lifeguards, public works, public service, communications. It goes on and on and on because every part of the city has a certain component that they have to provide for the race success.
Well, I think that one of the things that, and of course, I feel great pride in the city for the fact that they all work together so well.
Right.
Because there are many cities that would feel that their such and such isn't strong enough and this area is not developed enough, and so they couldn't really bring them all together as equals in making sure that it turns out to be a good occasion. So the city, in addition to the funding that we get, which makes it successful so that we can afford these things, but also it's a regular communication that makes such a difference.
No, absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, that comes right down from the top. You know, the mayor and city council and city manager, and they provide the direction for all the city services that, you know, we need to make this happen because it's a benefit to the city as a whole. So.
Yeah, and they communicate it to the department heads.
Exactly.
And, you know, and you're right, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't think I would have, but I think it is true. It's that everyone buys into it because they know the value to the city.
Right.
You know, and I'll have to admit, just seeing it on television or where they show the screening of not just the race, but the coastline and the sun and the ocean. I mean, it's beautiful.
It is. I have a good friend that lives in New York, and she was brought up in Long Beach, born and raised here. And every year, about the middle of April, she sends me a note that says, maybe I made a mistake.
In moving there.
In moving back to New York, because it does come off just so incredibly beautiful when you look at shoreline and the marinas and everything down there.
Well, you know, I'm actually glad that at the very beginning, 43 years ago, that that our city officials made the big step in allowing something like this in the city, especially if they were using the city streets, because this was kind of unheard of, and it was really questionable, as we talked earlier.
Very.
But what has emerged into is something that is of great pride.
Oh, it's incredible pride. You know, I'm a lifelong resident of the city, and there's a certain amount of it's almost like a defense mechanism when somebody says something negative about your city, and then you have something like the Grand Prix that comes up, and you say, "Well, look at this. You know, this is who we are today." And it does. It evokes a tremendous amount of civic pride.
And there are other volunteer groups that help.
Yes.
What other groups are there?
Well, from the foundation perspective, when we select recipient charities, we look for charities that can be our partners as far as the operation of our events. Local charities such as the Operation Shortstop program, Operation Jumpstart, Interval House, Women's Shelter, those individual charities will provide volunteers for us to run our events and help in other ways, sending out invitations or making phone calls, soliciting prizes for the events, things like that. From the race perspective, you have organizations like the Committee of 300, which are the people that wear the red coats down at the race. They're a fully volunteer.
Which one?
The Committee of 300.
Well, I was going to get to that.
Oh, okay, I'm
No,
sorry.
that's all right.
No.
I'm glad you brought it up.
No, but I mean, they're the volunteers for the race itself. They do the ushering and handle moving celebrities or dignitaries from point A to point B, photography and handling the press and providing just a whole cadre of volunteers for the weekend itself.
Well, they are, Committee of 300, they've had people in there since the beginning too.
Correct.
That every year work so hard, and they do the things that maybe the junior chamber used to do, programs and all
In
of
a
this.
lot of ways, yeah. They provide whatever volunteer service the race management needs, they will provide it.
Yeah.
And they're down there, you know, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with their red coats
In
on.
force.
In force, you know, doing all those jobs that nobody else wants to do.
Yeah,
essentially.
I have a jacket that says, Committee of 300.
Right.
They think I'm volunteering.
I was a member of the committee for 11 years.
Yeah.
And I paid my dues, so to
Absolutely.
speak.
Well, the excitement that it brings to the city, and the fact that the downtown looks like the whole population is centered now in that downtown area. Some people avoid it like the plague because you can't get through the town, but others will just, roll with the punches. And the excitement that it brings inside is something that doesn't happen very often.
True.
And I've always been so proud that the city works to make that happen, works together to make that happen. So what do you see for the future?
Well, as far as the race itself is concerned, I believe that the association, the parent body, the Long Beach Grand Prix Association, has just renewed their contract with Toyota. I don't foresee anything changing appreciably in the configuration
Now,
of the
Toyota
track.
is moving its offices
True.
from, Torrance?
Torrance, yeah,
To Texas.
to Texas, correct. So
But they're still going to keep the Grand Prix.
they're going to keep the race. They've already committed to keeping the race for the time being. I'm not sure how many years the extension is, but it's they're secure here. One of the downsides of that move is the access to the Toyota folks, because we were able, even the foundation, when we needed something from our sponsor, Toyota, we were able to just run down the freeway and have a meeting, and now that's going to be a little different, setup. But Toyota's committed, the Grand Prix Association is committed to holding the race. The city has been tremendously supportive, with renewing their lease, their contract for the site itself. So I don't think anything's going to change. They're probably, if you look at the race itself, you'll find that almost every year there's something that's new. They keep adding. They'll reconfigure one aspect of
What
it.
is it, the one where they spin around?
The drifters.
Sorry.
Drifting came in a few
Shows you
years
what I
back,
know.
and it is hugely popular.
I know it.
It's just crazy popular. 2 years ago, I think it was, they brought in the truck series where they run the pickup trucks on the course and they use the jumps.
You can't believe it.
And that's a whole nother wrinkle to it. Nobody's ever seen anything like that, where they're
And
racing
that's on
these.
Sundays.
Yes.
No, the drifters are
The
another
drifters
night.
are on Saturday and Friday, and then the Sunday they run the trucks. But the trucks, these are off-road vehicles.
I
They're
know,
designed to work
enormous.
in the dirt, and they're running around pavement, asphalt and concrete, and then they run the jumps, and brings a whole new dimension to
Well,
it.
you see a picture, if you can't see it live, a picture of the truck up in the air, and the tires, and then you think, oh my God, they're going to break.
Right, right. So, but that's what the Grand Prix has done over the years, is they keep adding one little component maybe that's different from last year, or just slightly different in order to make it another exciting experience for the race fan. So.
And this year we have the celebrity, but something will come up.
They're working on it.
Yeah,
you know,
for next year.
Jim McCallion and his staff are incredible.
They're wonderful.
At being creative.
Yeah.
And so, yes, this will be the last year of the Pro Celebrity Race, but I will guarantee you that next year on Saturday, that little gap at 2 o'clock in the afternoon will be filled with something very exciting.
More trucks, maybe.
Who knows?
What else?
I'm sure
What
they're
else
working
can
on
be?
it. I don't. I have no idea. One of the things they brought in last year was the Formula E, which are the electric cars.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they brought them in last year. They did a race prior to, I think it was 2 weeks before the Grand Prix, or 2 weekends before, using the Grand Prix track. And they're battery-powered vehicles. And they battery-powered vehicles that does 160 miles an hour. And
A lot of batteries.
And they're hugely popular in certain countries around the world. And so I don't know what their plan is for this year with those, but there's something. It's a new little twist to the overall experience.
I don't remember that. It was 2 weeks before?
Yeah. They used the same track.
Uh-huh.
It was a free event, actually. It was open to the public for free, kind of as a promotion. Yeah.
Well, you've just been involved for so many years in many different capacities that you're kind of the historian of what's going on now. You're not planning on stopping anyway.
Not in the immediate future, no. I mean, I still enjoy it. I've made so many friends, both in the association, in the foundation, in our respective charities. It's I don't know. It's like coming home every year.
And you get to see people you haven't seen.
Exactly. It's like old home week. You go down to the race itself on Saturday and Sunday and reacquaint yourself with old friends and catch up on old times. And it is fun.
Okay, let's talk about that weekend so that people might understand. It starts on Friday or before that?
Well, they have events going on during the week. And I didn't bring my program guide to list them off for you, but they do have events on Pine Avenue. I think it's on Thursday night. The racing itself begins on Friday.
Okay.
The track's open usually around 7:30 in the morning.
And that day is open?
That day is practice and qualifying for all the different race elements.
And what about the spectators?
And spectators, they're everything in the race circuit.
Is there a free Friday?
Well, they call it Free Friday because you can get free tickets. There's a variety of ways of getting free tickets. The Press-Telegram, as an example, usually runs an ad in their paper that says
But you have to have something.
You have to have something. You don't just walk through the gate. You either have to have a race ticket or you have to have one of these passes that's given away either from the Press-Telegram. The Toyota dealers used to give away passes for test driving a vehicle. There's a myriad of ways you can get the free pass. But the beauty of Friday, quite honestly, is that every seat in every grandstand is available. There are no reserved seats.
You just go in and find a place.
Go in and find a place
That's
to
great.
sit, and you can sit on the straightaway for a while and watch them go 200 miles an hour. Then you can move up and to the corners and watch them take the chicane. And
Well, we should find out more how you get the tickets because you're going to get people more excited.
but that's the beauty of Friday.
Yeah.
And the crowds are smaller because it is a weekday, which means you have availability of seats throughout the circuit. You can get down there. You can move around from point to point.
Okay, now this is Friday.
This is on Friday.
And Saturday and Sunday are the big days.
Saturday and Sunday are the big days.
Saturday has a celebrity race.
Saturday has a celebrity race.
And
correct.
the main race is Friday or
And
Sunday.
the main race is, the big race on the Indy cars is on Sunday, correct? Yeah.
And they can find schedules all over.
Schedules are
Yeah.
everywhere.
Okay.
You can go online to www.gplb.com and then look at the website. It gives you all the information as far as ticketing
Great.
and grandstands and everything else, as well as a link to the foundation. You can go on that site
Okay.
and come and link into our site, which will give you information about our event. So.
Well, Rick, I've loved this. This is making me even more excited about next week or next month.
Well, we see you down there every year.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much again
You're
for
very
being
welcome.
here. Thank
It's a pleasure.
you. This was a special edition today of The Heart of Giving, because there was a lot of giving in there. Of course, a lot of excitement about how we raise funds for giving, but it's another foundation that we're proud of in the city of Long Beach. We'll see you next time.